Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Strong Communities meeting of April. And I do hope everybody had a good Easter and a well-deserved break. And to members of the public who are watching us now or who will watch us in the near future, good morning to you also. We have members of the public here with us this morning. I think it's Mr. Nick Tatum. That's it. Okay, good morning, sir. I have officers of the authority here. Could you just introduce yourselves for the public, please, and then we can make a start in the meeting. Thank you.
I'm Amy Bowen. I'm the Senior Policy and Performance Officer for Recycling and Waste.
Roger Hoggins, I'm Head of Operations.
Carl Tewig, Recycling Strategy Manager.
And Brian Jones, who most of you know, I guess, Cabinet Member for County York. We can just introduce Carl a bit further. Carl is taking over where Rachel left off, if you like, because Rachel's now had her baby and won't be with us for a while. But she did, in any event, had moved up the peck order. So Carl is sort of doing what was effectively her job, aren't you? Yes. So ex-Newport, very experienced with waste. So he wanted to get a mom and should have learned a bit more. So there we go. nice to have you with us, Carl.
Chair, on the basis that Rachel has had a baby, could we send our, I can say condolences, then the wrong word, but from this committee?
Yeah, thank you. Could I just say that I've got plenty of members putting their hand up. I don't know if it's because of Rachel, who's had a baby or whatever, but
It was a baby.
It was the baby, was it? I got Val and David. Let's move on, folks, please. Val?
Councillor Val Smith, elected member.
Councillor Sarah Jones.
Councillor Susan White from Monmouth.
Councillor Kevin Williams, Gavilan.
Councillor David Davey, Chepstow.
Councillor Tony Easton, Dewstow, Caldecott.
Councillor Howarth, Chair of Select. We have Hazel Eilert is our scrutiny lead officer, and our clerk today is Sarah. Good morning, both. Right, could I just start by saying congratulations to Rachel, and send all our best, and hopefully we'll see her back very soon. I know she'll be really busy with the nappy collections and stuff like that. And good morning to you, Carl, okay? We will look after you, and I'm sure you'll recognise our faces and names to emails, etc. over the oncoming months. So good morning to you also, and good morning to the rest of the officers. Right, let's make a start in the meeting.
Chair, we're about to receive on the 3rd of June the Safer Monmouthshire plan. That will be signed off on the 3rd of June. And that is the plan that contains all the direction for the partners involved in the Safer Monmouthshire, one of which is the Fire Authority. I think members said at the last meeting that they'd like to invite the Fire Authority to a future meeting. The Fire Authority have published their annual report back in January, which is a very detailed report on the operational aspects of the Fire Authority. As I'm sure members are aware, our role is not to look at the operational aspects, but to look at the strategic direction of the council, how they work with the partnership to deliver our objectives. So the Safer Monmouthshire plan will be the plan that encompasses all the activities of the different partners that contributes to our aims and objectives. So we'll seek to bring that document before you as soon as we can, and to invite representatives. Given the committee's interest in the Fire Authority, I suggest they are probably the first organisation that you'd like to invite, and then you can invite each of the others in turn. So you will effectively have several meetings which will deal with a crime and disorder matter.
Okay, members happy with that? Yep. And I think the first one will be good training for us as well, reference to the Fire Authority. And Val, you sit on the Fire Authority as well, so we've got an expert there who can help us out and guide us.
No, not an expert, Chairman.
I class you as an expert. Kevin?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think it might be a good idea also to start looking at some of the neighbourhood policing issues that are cropping up, because I think from what I've seen, neighbourhood policing is taking a bit of a chop, and I'm a bit concerned that allocated officers rather than PCSOs seem to have been taken away from those areas, and it's all landed with the jobs of the PCSOs, which I think is a bit unfair on them.
Yeah, I think we'll take that when it comes, Kevin. I don't know. Does anybody? Do we still have the police panel? They used to call them Red Pop, or there used to be a body of councillors used to sit with social services, with youth offenders, with the police. Do we still have them at the moment?
No, we don't. It's gone to what's called CSATs, and more they are devolving from the police issue to a community issue. So it's not quite the same programme of work, but that took its place a few years ago.
So CSAT then we should have in place where members participate in discussions. You do have 2 members of this council sit on the police authority as well. And I think if there are concerns from this committee or from any councillor, direct them to Councillor Francis Taylor and Councillor Peter Clark. Am I right? They're on the police and crime panel also, so they may be the ones actually we can fire off questions and have some answers back, okay? I got Kevin, then David, and then we'll move on then. Okay.
Yeah, the CSAT in Abergavenny, I'm going to the meeting this afternoon because I sit on that for the Brynnicombe area, and I'll also voice my concerns there, but I think we should be voicing them at a higher level.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with Kevin that I think it needs to be taken to a higher level. But a point I would like to make, and I only have it from Councillor Dovey, the other Councillor Dovey, who sits on CSAT in the Chepstow area, the police are frequently absent. Their attendance record is not good at all. So whether that's a reaction to the importance that they put on it as a committee, I don't know. But the fact is they don't seem to attend as regularly as perhaps they should.
Yeah, I just answer that one, Councillor Dovey. I think the police are exactly the same as public service councils, etc. I think they've got mass savings to be made and cuts that have to be made, but that still doesn't mean that they should not deliver what they're there to deliver, and that's protect and look after our communities within Monmouthshire and within Gwent also. So they are the 2 people, is Councillor Taylor and Councillor Peter Clark. If you feel you're not happy, we could write a letter, or we could, all communities, yeah, we can call them in, we can actually call them in and ask questions of them to take back and give us the answers. So there are avenues and doors to be opened there if we feel that strongly about it. Last one, Councillor Eason.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I concur with Councillor Dovey and what Mrs Dovey experienced at CSAT, because I'm a member of CSAT on behalf of the Community Council. But I will say that Alicia Thompson, the new inspector of the south of the county, has made it her business to try and get to as many meetings as she can. But the criticism I will make is that whilst we criticise the police, and I think that there's level of criticism needed in terms of attendance, equally elected members not turning up. So it's a quid pro quo. Unless we turn up and they don't turn up, we don't make progress. And I think Kevin might find this afternoon.
But unless we ask questions also, councillors, you ain't going to get no answers, and we know that that's how it operates. So we just can't put our head in the oven and think, well, we're not going to ask. You've got to ask.
Any members of the public want to? 4 till 8 o'clock this afternoon, the Usk Police Station is open and we can go and meet our new inspector, Hugh Jones. So they are trying their best, I think. It's difficult.
As and when members, yep. So if you're putting your black bags out, you're doing it wrong. It should be grey bags and then black bags, yeah? Right. Forum. Good morning, Mr. Tatum. Do you have any questions, or are you just... not this stage. Okay, can you signal if you would like to speak so I do know? All right, thank you. Right, agenda item number 4, to confirm and sign the minutes of the following Strong Community Select Committee, copies attached. Right, number 1, agenda minutes of the 18th of November 2014, and that was a special meeting. Do I have a proposer and a seconder that them minutes are a true and accurate record of what went on the 18th of November? And then I'll take actions after that, okay? Yep, I've got Councillor Smith and Councillor White as a seconder. Right, any actions from them minutes? Are we okay with them?
I'd like to ask a question, please, Chairman.
Yes.
Coming from that. What's the situation with our curbside collection? Will it continue with the plastic bags, or are we going to with the government?
I think that will be in our report
Later on?
from Amy
Okay.
later on. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Yeah, there are some proposals there within that waste report, yes. Sorry, not it. Yeah, if you want.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In relation to whether or not you can, I suspect you're talking about whether or not we considered with bags or some sort of curbside box or some alternative system. That will be coming forward to you, I believe, in the beginning of 16 now, after the full review of the service is completed. This all forms part of that in the overall picture, but you are undertaking a fundamental review, and that will come back later in the year, beginning of next year, I believe, actually.
Another thing I'd like to raise, Chairman, just the hub opening hours. There's an item there that my own personal view, it would be useful to have them open 6 days a week, sort of 10 till 3. Absolutely solid for the public to know. There are 5 hours every day when we could go and raise issues. Just my view.
Yeah, Roger.
Thanks, Jerry. It's an area which won't actually be within the remit of operations. We'll be doing it with the contact centre end of the function. Nevertheless, I'm very grateful for the feedback because I believe in the report we suggested 5 days, a 37-hour working week, but with a late evening and a Saturday. I would have to say to members, given the level of resource which we have available in there, a suggestion such as that just made by Councillor Smith may need to be considered in order that we can use what resource we have most effectively to keep it open. And maybe limited hours and that type of thing is something we'll have to do, and I'm quite happy to feed that back to Deborah Hill-Howells, Head of Service, as a comment from members.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, we need to consider that further because there's an email come from you recently where you may, in the near future, have to close one-stop shops over lunch times and certain other days to encompass the changes which you're going to do towards the hubs, which is another question I'm asking. When do we get some sort of feedback as to where we are with the hubs? I was at full council last time. There's a question mark over Abergavenny. I think we know where we're going with Caldecott in general terms. Chepstow, yes. Monmouth, not so sure. So unless we pick it up in the minutes to follow, we need some update on that.
I think what we're after here, Roger, is will we be having another document coming back to us on decision making over the hubs? What a final decision really, because it's still juggling balls at the moment. That's the word I will use. We are still juggling because we haven't got any final proposals there. And the likes of Abergavenny, the opening hours and things like that, until we have them proposals properly and signed and sealed with a document which the council are going to agree, we actually have made no decisions yet. Is that correct?
I would have to check back on the specific minutes of the meeting, but my recollection is that the recommendations at the time were for Chepstow to develop the hub within the Chepstow Library, Caldecott to develop the hub within the Caldecott Library. Within Monmouth, it was to be developed within Rolls Hall, whilst a further study is being done on other potential sites within there at limited cost. The one which is outstanding is Abergavenny, and that work just continues with the Abergavenny in relation to feasibilities for the use of the town hall or other buildings within Abergavenny. Well, essentially, the Richards building is the other one which is being considered. Other other aspects that come into play with it, but it is quite clear that the Abergavenny hub is the one which is will be delayed because of that. Until that is clear, implementation in there will not be undertaken of the hub, and it will not be created in its full extent until that is resolved. The others will, and my recollection of the minute is that that is what was approved, that they will go ahead, and on the basis of those proposals I just said and design work, what design work there is presently being undertaken in Caldicot Library, Chepstow Library and the Rolls Hall to create those hub environments.
Councillor Dovey, then Councillor Eason.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I agree in the main with what Roger has said. I do recall at the time I had concerns about the two in Chepstow. This is a Chepstow hub being made into one area, if you like. But the staff had reached a sort of agreement between themselves. They could make it work, which was fine. It relieved the need for me to die in the ditch over the thing, if you like. But the 2 points I did make. One was they were anxious to get on with it now. They, having made the decision, they wanted to get on with it as soon as possible. And the other thing that I wanted, because I still do have concerns about the two being amalgamated into one myself, the design, as you're talking about, that should have the full input of the people that are going to have to work within that. So that is the point I would like to ask for clarification on, particularly, is that happening and are the staff involved in it?
I will allow the answer, but what we need to do is be very clear in it. We've already had the report. This is actions. I think the officers made it quite clear. What we're left with is the roles in Monmouth, which may be not happening, and the Abergavenny one, the hub one as well. The other two are actually virtually well ahead of schedule and will be implemented as quickly as possible. We are there, and that's all the answer we wanted. If we get into a full debate on this, we could spend another hour on it, and I'm not going there, and we shouldn't go there. We're only agreeing minutes. So I've got one last question. Roger can answer that one, David. One last question. Tony, and then answer the two for me,
Yeah,
Roger.
it's to do with, I haven't got the things in front of me, the management structure you presented to this committee some months ago was really incumbent upon the fact that this whole transition would take place in one go. How does this particular situation, where the north of the county seems to be a bit more flux than the south, how will it affect your management structure changes, where you had different officers taking over areas of the county?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In relation to the actual design, I can advise members that the supervisors on site and thereby through the staff have been discussing and consulted on design. I would also, however, urge members to reflect back upon the value of money you have available to do any works, which was £300,000, I believe, to carry out Usk, Chepstow, Caldicot and Monmouth works. So whatever is done is going to be relatively modest, given that Usk is taking the major part of that money to carry out the works to the building in there. But the staff are being consulted on what design might be appropriate. In relation to the Monmouth one, the decision I recall is that it is to go into the Rolls building, but that any work should be carried out of a limited nature whilst any other schemes which may be feasible are undertaken. I can advise that the process in relation to staff and progress in this is underway now. Staff are involved with that process, are the unions, as are our HR people. and interviews are taking place, and I've been involved with them the last few weeks, and they will continue now through May. The management structure to create the hubs and the contact centre forms part of that exercise. So in relation to the managers, they will be put in place. So they will be appointed to it. The difficulty is in relation to Abergavenny, not only in relation to the managers, in relation to those staff below. You may recall that we said we cannot leave Abergavenny out of this process, and yet we cannot wait. So those staff have been involved in it. They are involved in the process which I just referred to. They are being interviewed. They will have the same opportunity to be appointed to staff. Nevertheless, implementation will have to be put back until that building is ready, whichever building that may be. It's not ideal, but not to do it this way would be to disadvantage those staff, which we consider to be unfair. But the managers will be appointed.
Members happy with that? Any more questions? Can you direct them to Roger directly? I think that would be the best direction. David, I did say we're only agreeing minutes here, and we spent 20 minutes now discussing.
I only wanted to say, Chairman, I didn't want to debate, and Roger's answers have satisfied me perfectly. Okay. Thank you.
It is good that we have them few minutes, but 20 minutes, I think, with direct questions to Roger, okay? If you've got any more. Can I agree the minutes of 20th of November 14, please?
Chairman.
A proposer and a seconder of them minutes, please. I got Sue as a proposer. Sue, I can't ask you to put as that because you weren't there. Can I have another one? No, I'm on 20th of November minutes.
Chair, I did offer my apologies due to work commitments and they're not recorded, so can you just add them for me, please? Thank you.
Can we do that, please, sir? Right, I've got Val Smith.
Just one small amendment, Chairman.
I need to agree the minutes first. Can I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Councillor Easton.
It's an agreement of the accuracy of.
Right, okay.
It's a very small one. Under the declarations of interest, I declared an interest, and it says that I'm a member of Monmouthshire Housing Association, Melin Housing. I'm not a member of Melin Housing. I have an association.
Okay,
Just to be
right.
clear.
Right. Tony, do you want to... And a seconder, please. Sarah, thank you. Any actions from them minutes? Val?
Question, please.
Yep.
How have we gone with trading standards? Are we moving towards an amalgamation across Grains? That's all right. We'll find out in time. It's okay.
I think there's a report coming from Dave Jones on trading standards. I've just been informed, Val. So, and
Yeah,
that...
because it's been an ongoing thing for
That's
some
right.
time.
Okay.
Sorry, ongoing for some time, wondered how it had progressed. And another thing that will probably go to Dave Jones again will be the contaminated sites register that we do need, and it's not completed, it's never been completed.
Can we make sure that's there with his report? Okay. So, any more actions from that minute? No? Okay, thank you.
Please, Chairman. And that meeting, there was the cycle route from Usk to going through to Little Mill. We were hoping for a report. We seem to have come to a bit of an impasse on that. No reports come through. But Mr. Cope, our transport manager, and Mr. Saunders, Ian Saunders, have actually been in the same room and discussed with the UTAG members. Where we're coming to an impasse on that, it seems you need to, well, agree terms of reference. There needs to be a member, think of understanding between Monmouthshire County Council, colleague Gwent, and acceptance of legal liability to use that railway track. It's an ongoing issue. It's it's mandate one for us as an authority, and it seems that we're not really moving ahead as quickly as we could, Chairman. So it's something that's still ongoing.
Any answer to that, Rogers? Are we going to have any feedback from Ian and Richard on the cycle routes within Monmouthshire, let's say? Because there are others as well, aren't there? An email from somebody just to give us some updates of where we are. That would be easiest, Val, yes?
The real sticking point seems to be the legal liabilities. Although you do have the track running through the tunnel, there's nothing on that.
It's on the work programme. Okay. Can we have something back of them?
Yes, Mr Chairman, I'll ask for a written response from Ian or Richard.
Okay. Can you find?
Because what I would say, Chairman, is the principal of Coleg Gwent fully supports this initiative. It would provide a route that would take you straight through from Little Mill, well, from Usk, Little Mill to Pontypool. There are students who have great difficulty getting to the college, declare an interest. Equally, it might be useful to our employees if they had a decent route, a safer one.
I think what we had said is, though, Val, that within that meeting is we did have an overall perspective with cycle routes and safe routes within the communities of Monmouthshire as well, wasn't there? I think there was a bigger picture to all this, and we did ask for the lead officer to just give us an update of where we were and what was happening within Monmouthshire on cycle routes. So I think if you could speak to Ian and ask him, could he send us a document or something outlining where we are and what routes we're intending to do and what routes are causing problems, etc. And then we can have a look at that then. Okay, I've got Councillor Eason.
Thank you once again. A question on regarding page 5, the ISTED for 2016, bullet points 3, 4, and more particularly bullet point 5. I'm not sure at that meeting whether the Sevenside fundraising body been set up. I'd have to check on that, but there is a Sevenside fundraising body now. But bullet point 5, I'm not sure whether Councillor Greenland was at a meeting with us at some stage or other where we were given an assurance that member briefing session would be held in due course. I think we're due for a briefing session from the appropriate cabinet member. I know he's not running the ISTED, and I know Monmouthshire County Council not running the ISTED. He's facilitating the county for it. But we need a briefing session. We need a regular briefing session.
Yeah, that's that'd be great to have an update. What we're talking about is an update, Tony, where we are with the fundraising, because it's 300k, wasn't it? We had to look at raising. Yeah, can we ask? Is that Tracy? When for? Kelly and Deborah Howells, is it? Can we ask just for an update where we are, and we've got a members' seminar coming up, perhaps, some dates? Will you be okay with that, Tony? Yeah.
Unless they want to send us an email, all members.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they've agreed to a seminar. I've just been informed, Tony, which is better still, isn't it? Okay. All right. Thanks. Anything else? No. Right.
I can't remember which page I did it off that thing, which won't work today. I'm trying. I did request that a list of all council meetings went to community and town councils at that meeting as well. I know it hasn't been done because I've gone through the list with my relevant community council. An item that was discussed last time, I've just made a note there, organisational development strategy, and I just commented on the fact that I thought 9.9 sickness days average was somewhat high, but I know that that was discussed at the council meeting, presumably last Thursday, and I didn't make that. And is there to be a further report on the public conveniences again? There are a lot of questions coming from that need, and if we could really work through this system, Councillor Jones, I think we could work more effectively. So look forward to that report. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have agreed in our pre-meeting, Val, that we will send out the diary and pre-agendas for the meetings. And going back to the toilets, can we just remind officers that could they update us where they are with the provision that we asked for? And I think the stumbling block was Abergavenny again, but there was other toilets as well, wasn't there? Yes. Yeah. So can we have an update of them? I think maybe in summertime. I think it was summertime. I think it was. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Easton.
Thank you. This is a point we need to follow up. There are various questions in various toilets. Could I have an assurance from Mr Hoggins that where toilets in the process of being transferred to various town community councils, that we don't have a situation where, because of possibilities in not getting the facilities transferred properly, that they will remain open for the public? I can't put my question any different.
I think what we're asking there, Councillor Easton, is costly transfer is not as smooth as it should be, that the toilets remain open until the transaction's taking place. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and I declared a personal interest in Caldicot Town Council toilets because I'm a member of the Caldicot Town Council.
Is that the reason of asking the question, because there's a problem with Caldicot at the moment with the asset transfer?
No comment.
No comment, okay. Okay. Can we write to Councillor, can we write to the Officer Tony and ask him what the position is on the opening of them toilets then, perhaps? Can I advise you to do that, or can you answer him?
The approach which we've adopted is where we carried out works to improve or carry out maintenance to toilets before they get handed over, which we've done recently, is to, rather than reopen them, we hope to be able to hand them directly over to the town or community council after the works have been completed. Where that may not prove feasible for whatever reason, we have to review whether or not to open them back up as Monmouthshire County Council, but we would do that with a local member and cabinet member anyway.
Okay, thanks, Roger. Okay, right, let's move on to the next agenda item. Trade waste. And the item is modernising of trade waste, introduction of charging for dry recycling and realignment of commercial waste activity within Monmouthshire. Okay, who's going to take this document?
Thanks, Chair. I will very, very briefly open it up and then pass it on to Carl, whose report it actually is. But the background to it is we've charged for trade waste for many years in either through SACS or the wheel bin system. But in more recent years, we've been providing recycling services to many commercial premises through the pink and purple SACS system for free. The mandate in this year's for this year's budget introduced the charge for that, and this report brings that into place, along with bringing into line some administrative processes which go with it. But with that, I'll pass it over to Carl to provide a bit more, if that's okay.
Okay, so as Roger said, we've provided this service for many years. We are now looking at optimising the service, bringing in a database to capture all the customers that use the service. We have roughly 400 customers signed up for the service, but we know that there's many more using the red and purple bag scheme as a free scheme. That is a domestic service, not a trade waste service. So we are looking to make a charge for that service for our businesses. We've also introduced a charge for the duty of care and the waste transfer note. We've explained this to the businesses in January, and the invoice has gone out now in April, and most of the businesses are already paid this charge. So the first stage of the mandate is well on its way to being met, the £10,000. The introduction of a database to capture all this information will allow us then to start charging for the red and purple bags, which will hopefully bring in the rest of the mandate, the £40,000. So what is on discussion today is taking that forward and gauging your views on how we do that part of the process. So what we'd like is to approve the policy for charging, approve the changes for the charging mechanism and the creation of the database through an investor save scheme, because we didn't put our funding in when we first decided on this scheme.
Okay, thanks for that, Carl. Anything else? Brian, are you okay?
Yeah, for the moment, yes.
Yeah, okay. Right, members, questions? Val?
Yeah, please, Tommy. Under the financial implications, and yes, you do need a decent bespoke database. So you're going to require a programme through CMC2 and SRS. Now, my understanding was that they were reforming or regrouping, so that it would not be from SRS. Am I right? CMC2.
Squared is being remodeled
Yes.
to bring in Monmouthshire Enterprise as a new entity. So it'll be MBE now instead of CMC.
Can I ask Germany, are we happy that they're competent to do the right and appropriate programme, or is it not possible to buy that programme from some other authority?
So what we're saying, Councillor Smith, is that the programme is being built up in Blenavon by CMC Squared. Yeah. What you're saying is, should we actually go out to the market and see where we can have a better option, a cheaper option? Is that what you're saying? Should we not go to procurement, or?
The best way of moving forward for the
Yeah.
service. It needs that programme, it needs a good programme, and I would have thought that there was something perhaps already there within another authority or on the market, and we should not definitely keep it in-house.
Can I just step in 1 second now? Can we be clear now? Is if I remember rightly, the senior officer came to us, and I think it may have been in the mandates there. Recycling with trade waste, it says there, is going to be compulsory. That all trade waste has to be recycled. Was that correct?
Yeah, the legislative change is that at present, the legislative change is that any trade waste supplier must give the ability for the trade waste customer to recycle. Through the Environment Bill, which is due to come out now early next year, there will be a legislative duty on the businesses then to recycle. So they put the legislative duty on the waste collector this year, and it'll be on the businesses next year.
Okay, so the waste collector has the duty to recycle. So when he picks it up, he has to recycle it, yes? Which is us.
Yes, the duty is to provide a service that allows the businesses to recycle.
Right,
So
okay.
we don't have to recycle all their waste, but we have to give them an element that they can recycle.
Okay, so if, and I'll just give you an example, we know what the companies are out there who offer trade waste. So if that company has a recycling facility or has a subsidiary of that company has a recycling facility, they're ticking the box then with the companies which are out there, whereas we can't, because we haven't got I need to be clear in mind here, because, and the reason why I'm saying this, members, is I do have a memory like an elephant sometimes, but I can remember when we drove a lot of our businesses away from us on trade waste because we didn't want them. We put the charges so high that they went elsewhere because it wasn't within our interest to have them, because the goods that they were putting out was costing us more to send to landfill because they weren't recyclable than what it was to recycle them. So they went elsewhere. What we're saying now is we want them back, because where they've gone, I believe, is to the other companies who have the facility to recycle. So what they do is they tip out wherever they've had, and they recycle either in the yards or in the compounds, or they send them elsewhere. What we're saying is we want these companies to come back to us now. And the reason why I'm saying this as well is because my local council went to a company and came to Monmouthshire County Council for trade waste, because it took on a building, and we all know what the building it took on, and they didn't come to Monmouthshire because they were too expensive. And I said, you've got to go to Monmouthshire. No, we are a community council, we have to handle public money, and the public money has to be handled within a way, it's best value. And they went elsewhere. And I did say about this issue about recyclers, and they went to a company who said they do recycle, because when they collect it, they recycle it when they tip it out. Whereas we don't have that facility, is that correct? But we're asking now, we're asking now people to pay now for service which we haven't got. Is that, am I clear? Whereas the other companies have got it.
Yeah, we've the people we're sort of targeting with this are businesses that are already using our red and purple bag schemes. So for businesses that have signed up to our trade waste service over the last few years, we've allowed them to use the red and purple bag scheme sort of as a part of that, but we've never charged them additional charge for it. So now what we're looking to do, we've got probably about 200 customers already sort of recycling through us. So we're sort of looking to, you know, focus on those areas first.
Okay, so this is the real small businesses then, who don't have the, let's say, the wheeled bin or the facility. How many litres are them wheeled bins? I can't remember what they are.
They sort of range in size, but a lot of them will have the 1100 litre wheel bins.
So we're not directed towards them, are we not? No.
We're gonna, like in the first instance, we'll be focusing on the people that are already using the red and purple bags. But then obviously we'll look to branch out and market the service a bit better, and try and encourage more people to come and use the recycling service as well. So where people are focusing on the refuse collection at the moment, we'll try and draw them away from that, because it's financially better for them to do so, to come over and use the red and purple bags more.
I'm just still not clear. So the smaller business, which doesn't have the wheeled bin, they have bags, right? So they want to put whatever out. And what we're saying to them is, look, you know, we can't keep giving you these bags because you're putting 20 out or whatever. Is it not there beneficial then to take the big bin if they're putting that many out?
Sometimes it does. For the small businesses, they tend to only put, in terms of refuse now, they tend to only put 1 or 2 bags out a week. So that will cost them about £4 a week for their collection, whereas if they had a bin, you're looking at, is it about £20 now? Yeah, but in the region of about £20 for collection. So for the small businesses, it's not worth them having a bin anyway.
Okay, and they're not the bigger people we're not looking at the moment, so all the smaller businesses, is it?
Generally, yeah, our sort of main makeup of our clientele are smaller businesses.
Okay.
Can I just come in, Mr. Chair? Mike Kaiser would correct me if I got this wrong, but we're not going to deny the facility to any of our existing trade customers, be they wheel, bin or bag. No. If they wish to use our pink and purple system, then they can, yes. But they will have to pay. If we take back to what Carl was saying earlier, there's an obligation upon us, as there would be upon any other trade waste company, to provide a facility for a business, not only to get rid of its residual waste, its commercial waste, but also to recycle. We will be fulfilling that by selling pink and purple bags, those bags which at present they're getting for free. So we will provide that, be they a wheel bin customer or a black sack customer. Presumably other customers, the big players like Biffa and the rest, are doing the same in terms of allowing a customer to recycle. And I believe I'm actually seeing wheel bins now from the likes of these other companies which are taking recyclates. We don't do it through a wheel bin system because we'd have to run a separate recycling collection service, and it's not feasible to do that. With this, the recyclates are going to go in with the domestics, yes?
Yes.
Going to go into the back of the domestic lorry. So we're fulfilling our commercial demand because they're buying the bags and they're going in the back. But we won't be giving them a wheel bin to recycle with. A wheel bin to go the residual, yes, we do, but not for the recyclates.
Okay, okay, Tony, Councillor Easton.
Well, I'm sort of clearer. Three aspects on trade waste markets, for example, in the Caldecott market, where the traders have got, I believe, a commitment from themselves and Monmouthshire County Council to remove their waste at the end of the day. And generally, it's swept up and shoved into one big lorry and goes to ground landfill. Will that change? The second one is doctor surgeries. And how would we implement the blue and purple bags? Because doctor surgery, for example, in Caldecott, I see our purple bags, grey bags, they have the specialist bags for medical waste, etc. How are you going to monitor and how are you going to change that? The third aspect is schools. Schools at the moment use the service. So are schools, doctor surgeries, and are you going to change the regime for markets, for example, from what it is now to what you want it to be in the future? How would you make a charge on these sort of things? What is the regime? That's the bit I don't understand.
We're looking to have a different type of bag. They'll still be red and purple, but they'll have like a large stripe down them, so they'll be sort of easily distinguishable from our normal bags. And then our crews will sort of be a lot more sort of vigilant in terms of looking at traders, because they know a lot of the traders that are using the services already, so they'll be able to sort of monitor it from the ground aspect as well.
Surely we're adding unnecessary costs to develop this when we got a system which worked well, purple and red. It cost £70,000 a year, is it? Are we going to add more costs? Is it going to be cost effective at the end of the day? Should we not be looking for a more gentle regime where the small businesses can be encompassed within the system we've got? I find that if we're going to go down that route, we're going to push people away, and I don't want to see that.
They will be encompassed in the current system because we'll be using the same collection vehicles as we are at present.
Councillor Smith and Councillor Sarah John.
Are we allowed to count the tonnage still? We count the tonnage at the moment. It can go into our recycle rate. We're not contravening regs. Nope.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, through you, by doing this, we fulfil another piece of legislation that we are expected to charge for commercial services. So, and we don't at the moment. So to pick up on what Councillor Easton's saying and the point he made, I think it's very true that a lot of these businesses we presently trade with are going to be unhappy with the new arrangement because they're now paying for something which they've had for free for a long time. Nevertheless, there's an assumed income to be getting from that in the mandate, so we have to put it in place. And the actual control on the pink and purple sacks, they will also have to be registered with us to be able to buy those bags from us. So it does bring extra administration with it, but nevertheless, it does form part of that mandate and what we're expected to do, and we are expected to charge for that service. You mentioned a couple of other areas, if I may just pick up on them. The markets, I'm not sure. Do anybody know about the markets? I suspect they don't do anything like that at the moment, and it just goes in the back of the lorry, and it forms part of their, any charge for that service would form part of their charge for the pitch. There's no intention to look at that, but having mentioned it, we may.
I think they, sorry to interject, I think they do a bit of recycling in terms of use of the red and purple bag, but it's not widespread, it's kind of minimal.
No, yeah. I think, yeah. And schools can choose to go with other providers, and some of our comps are with other providers. So they have an option to go with other waste management companies should they so wish. So we work within that environment. And back actually to the point that the Chairman was making earlier in relation to our custom base, our costs going up, and us losing custom to others. Well, we have an obligation to charge what is close to what the market rate is, but we have to also be mindful of what the cost is providing that service. And yes, our charge did increase over the years, but our custom base goes up and down according to what our competitors are doing as well. I suspect I know the company which the Chairman refers to, and at the moment they're probably very cost effective, whereas we would compete with others as well, the other commercial companies doing that. So it is a case of what the market dictates and also what our operational costs are to provide the service. So it does, our customer base does go up and down.
I don't want to sound too dictatorial as a council, but surely it'd be better to have everybody on board. For example, in somewhere in our reports here, we talk about the schools and SRS. Some go in, some don't. It'd be more efficient to get the full benefits if they all joined in. And equally, on this sort of waste, is there no way that we could build in this as a business charge? They don't pay up front. It's within their costs of running their business.
Can anybody answer that one?
Yeah. The business rates, or whatever the business rates charge are, doesn't include your disposal cost because it would be unfair on the businesses. So a business that if everybody had to pay the same price, there's no encouragement to recycle, there's no encouragement to look for the best options and reduce your waste. So by charging everyone, it's an unfair system. But I take on board what you're saying. It's easier for businesses to understand when it's included in a cost. Also, for answering part of the other question, the red and purple bags at present, we don't pay for the treatment of those bags. We have a very, very good deal in place. That's unlikely to continue beyond the end of this year. So we will be paying to have the red and purple bags treated. So we will be incurring a cost as a council for recycling, quite a substantial cost. It's not fair for the public to pick up the business waste element of that going forward. And within the report, it estimates that to be around £53,000 sort of cost to the council if we allow traders to carry on using the red and purple bag.
You've touched on an important topic there. You mentioned that from such and such a period of time, there'll be the charges will have to go on the red and purple bags, which really is going to be another mandate coming from yourselves that the public are going to have to start paying for red and purple bags.
That's a very good question, Councillor Easton, because it crossed my mind here. Can you answer that, Roger?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. The mandate which we're referring to now is about trade recycling costs. There's no indication, there's no mandate, there's no suggestion at the moment coming from members or from officers that there's any charge be introduced for pink or purple bags for all residential or domestic.
Okay. Sarah and then Sue. I'll let you come in now.
I think most of what I was going to ask has been covered, but it was just firstly, you mentioned the Environment Bill. My understanding is that that's going to be introduced this spring. Are we preempting the potential legislation that's going to come forward, or do we have an indication of what's likely to come forward as part of that bill introduction? My question then was around, I think this has just been picked up now, is around the cost to MCC is 87,000, I think under 3.7. What potential is there to recover that based on the current charging schedule? So how does it sit alongside, and maybe I've missed it in here, but I just wondered how that sits alongside the cost to us. And then the third thing was just, as I'm sure we always do very effectively as a council, in terms of communicating to businesses the changes. I mean, you mentioned a lot of businesses are under the wrong assumption that this comes under their business rates. So it's just about ensuring we have effective communication over the proposals that will hopefully be adopted.
Okay, we are slightly preempting the Environment Bill, but having gone through the consultation process with Welsh Government and NRW, we have a strong steer of what the Environment Bill will contain, and certainly from the waste aspect, it will contain a legislative duty on businesses to separate their waste for recycling. So we've had that clear steer already, so we're quite comfortable with that. The cost, the 53,000 for dry recycling cost and the additional money will depend whether we cover that cost on how much we charge for the bags, which is part of this report. It's, you know, so at the bottom of the report it says if we charge, I can get into it now as well, sorry. If we charge a certain amount, it'll cover the cost, the collection cost. If we cover more, it'll cover the collection and disposal cost. If we fully charge, and I think it's the £1.20 for a red and purple bag, it covers all of our costs. So we're on. So that's where we are on that.
Okay.
Yes, it's a very interesting document. My mind boggles when I think how many small businesses we've got in Monmouthshire. How are you going to reach them all? Because some of the new ones that have started up, one-man business, one-woman business, I just wonder what they do with their bits and pieces that are left over from their jobs. And I'm sure a few of them have landed up on my land when they fly tip, and that worries me. Are you going to make people push them into such a hole that they'll think, right, we'll have to do more fly tipping? I have seen a lot of them up at the recycling centres. You get to know business people, and they're there offloading into the skips. How are you going to monitor that?
Anybody like to answer that question?
Yeah. The small, all businesses have a duty to provide a trade waste collection. They have. I know that not everyone does. Our plan is to communicate. We have communicated with the businesses. We have explained that this is coming, not in a strong, but an overview of why we are doing it, why the changes are coming, and that went out in January, February time. We will again send out leaflets to all businesses now on the run-up to the implementation of this, not just our customers, but to all businesses that are registered within Monmouthshire, explaining this. So hopefully capture the new businesses coming online and offer this service, because it does compete well with the other people in the market. I think for the traders currently using the civic amenity sites, the household waste recycling centres, as a council, this is something that we will have to tackle in the future. It costs a lot of money to run these sites. Traders using the site not only cost us a lot of money to get rid of their rubbish when they should be paying for it, but also clog up those sites for our residents, and that is the primary purpose of those sites. So we're not going to tackle this within this programme of work year, although we are going to raise it within the leaflets that businesses have a duty to pay for their trade waste to be disposed of and shouldn't be using the CA sites as a cheap means of disposal.
Well, we know they shouldn't be using it because they used to be quite strict a couple of years ago. You couldn't go with the business vehicle, that sort of thing. But more and more you see that they are. And there was quite a clog of traffic on that Troy Bend one morning when I was going through to Usk. And they were clogging up right round the bend, right over the Trothy Bridge, you know where that is, to the toll house. And it was mayhem, and it was frightening because I kept thinking someone was going to come whizzing around the corner into my boot. They had closed their gates to do what they have to do with their skips up there, but people had just parked and waited. I did report it to the police. I don't know whether they did anything about it. I never had a report back. But I don't know how often that is happening, and it never used to, so it shows how many more people are using these skips, and I'm just wondering if they're being used properly. Thank you.
Councillor Dovey.
Thank you, Chairman. Bearing in mind we've got a reputation for being one of the most forward-thinking councils as far as recycling is concerned, and we're usually in the vanguard of implementing any policies that come along. Does this offer us opportunity to influence some of the policies that come out of the Assembly, bring us a benefit in that way?
I think probably this initiative in itself is relatively limited in relation to that, because we are bringing a structure in terms of charging to an existing process. I think though, when you are looking at your wider strategy in the end of this year and through to the next year about how you go forward, what the views of Welsh Government and our performance are going to be important to influencing what our service looks like going forward in the next 5-10 years. So hopefully at that time, what we do at present, coupled with what Welsh Government think we ought to do, will be an interesting inform that debate and how we go forward. So yeah, in the broader context, I think what we do with Pink and Purple and our success with limiting residual is all important to that, but perhaps not specifically in this narrow area. Yeah, sure.
Okay, any more questions? Can I just ask a few questions? Looking at the fees for 15-16 on page 12 there, may I ask, you're talking about 1,100 litres bin there and then a 660, that's touching back on what I said before. The only concern I have with this is, I've had very, very good comments about how Monmouthshire's looking at the moment. He's looking really tidy. And we have fly tipping, we have people who actually are so born idle, they pass Landfoist or 5 lanes to go and dump it elsewhere. But you'll never stop people in society who have that attitude. But I've got to say, we are looking quite a pretty county at the moment, and fly tipping is at a minimum. I am concerned And I think the comments were made about our amenity sites, people are going in there, whether they're traders or not, and dumping their rubbish, whether it's wood, plasterboard, or whatever they have from whatever they're doing. I know it's not direct to them solely, this isn't, but what you could have here, and you've got to think of all the negatives, right, with charging somebody something. Forget it, whether it's waste or whether, there's always the negative, right, of somebody having to pay another £20 a week, let's say, is how can I get away with not paying it? And there are lots of simple solutions here in not paying that for a business. I'll go down to Lamfoist, I'll put it all in black bags. I'll put it out with my recycling when I get home. Instead of putting 2 bags out a week, I'll put 6 out. Nobody will bother. And that's how people will think. This is about raising money, and I've always looked at recycling and Monmouthshire about how we can encourage people to recycle in a way where the money doesn't come into it to a point. Lots of money we're having off the Welsh Government to recycle. And my only concern with this is we've driven people away by charging for trade waste, whether it's recyclers or not. I mean, here's an example, right? I'll ask the question of the senior officer. All trade waste, why is it not collected and sent to a dirty MRF? And so we can have 30% of recyclers from it. They were charging people for them, send it away to a dirty MRF, get it recycled, we could have another 6 or 7% on our target. I'm just thinking of examples here about people paying for things, right? I pay my rates on properties. I expect my rubbish to be collected. I had my little leaflet yesterday, which I have 4 of them, to be honest with you. All my recyclates, it hasn't changed. And that's part of my business, part of my rates. People will say here, well, I pay my business rates. And what am I paying? Same as I have residents out there saying to me, well, I pay my rates, what do I get for it? And then we as councillors have to explain to them. So my concern with instigating charges on trade is I'd hate to think that for what we're going to make from this, we've got to send wagons out every day of the week collecting rubbish from the side of the road, which was poor and bad not very long ago. And I think we've addressed that. I think we've got a lovely, pretty county at the moment, and we have very little waste. And that's because we've actually opened the doors up to people to take the little trailer down to Lamfoist or 5 Lanes and empty all the rubbish out there. Even though they may be having £50 or whatever from somebody chopping the trees, but it costs us hundreds of pounds to clear it up off the side of the road. And we all know we haven't got the manpower to actually carry out monitoring of all these sites. So to make us, bags residual £2.40, does that mean the rolls are £2.40 to buy for them? Is that what we're saying?
The bag is 240, isn't it?
Yeah. For the roll of bags is for what, for one bag? Well, they're going to say, well, I can go to the local post office and buy bags and I'll put it in there. Everybody will look in business. They're in business for one reason, is to make money. That's one reason why you're in business. You're not in business to employ people and not make no money. So all these people will look at this and think, well, how can I save? Because I ain't paying the 20 quid. I will save some money. And that's the only sceptical thing I have about increasing charges to businesses out there, is they'll have a way of not paying this. Are you going to make this compulsory so they'll have to pay it? It'll be compulsory. You pay £20. If you want to use it, we don't care. You will pay whatever it is we're charging you. Because, they ain't going to be happy with that either. And I'm always sceptical about charging people for things which actually they believe they can get it elsewhere. And they will. They will say, oh, I can get that cheaper elsewhere, that's where I'm going to go. Final comment on it.
A point well made that I'm sure some of our businesses will be reluctant to do it, and they will look to what else they can do. They can go to other providers, and there are other providers out there to provide a commercial waste service. Ever since we introduced charging for trade, and we're going back, I dread to think how many years, businesses have been reluctant to do so, and I completely understand why, but nevertheless it is an obligation upon us as other businesses, as other commercial waste management companies do, to charge for that service. we have charged for trade sacks for many years. I don't think it's the trade sack element which will necessarily cause anxiety and frustration. It's charging for pink and purple bags, which have previously been provided for free. But it is part of this scheme. We will have to manage that as we do at the moment. The risk of fly tipping is there. We can only monitor that. But the members have made the point already. If there's certain individuals who are of a mind that they will fly tip, it is very difficult to manage that in any event if they are of a mind that that is something that they're willing to do. If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to come back to one point which Councillor Smith made and which we didn't pick up, and that was around the software. Or I think several members mentioned about the actual software system. SRS, I've given it's SRS rather than whether SRS got arrangement in CMC squared, I don't know, but it's SRS which we've heard from, giving us a quote to provide a service. But there are other systems around, and we are in conversation with another supplier which presently provides software to other local authorities which does exactly the same thing. So we are looking at that as well.
Okay. Sarah, last one. Oh, Sue, yeah, okay. Sarah? Sue?
I do that. Yes, just to say, you were saying how good the county looks. Can I put a plug in here, please, for volunteers like myself who go out with their sacks? And I have to say I use a black sack because there's all sorts of rubbish on the end of my drive. And I do take it round to the recycling depot. I hope nobody's going to start charging me for doing that as a voluntary. But we must remember how many volunteers in this county keep their verges tidy.
For that, Sue. Sarah?
Yeah, so we've been asked to agree 20,000 for the database system, and you've been looking at options through our SRS, but you mentioned here the purchasing the off-the-shelf trade waste package. How much is that being quoted at? Is that 20,000? Is that why that figure's in there?
We had a quote, I think it was yesterday, £21,000. But it may be that we can get it cheaper than that.
Tony, send me an email or send them directly to the officer and have a response that way, okay? All right. Councillor Jones, do you want to finish off?
Yeah. A couple of things really. First of all, Sue, congratulations on picking up the rubbish. I would have thought she was entitled to orange bags if she's picking up the rubbish, so there would be no question of paying any, at all. Volunteers are supposed to use orange bags, if I'm not mistaken. But back to the subject in hand, I'm not going to be an apologist for fly tippers. People ought to pay for their waste. We have to pay for all the waste that goes from our business. The wheelie bins that takes the general waste, our bulk recycling goes to Newport Waste Savers because Monmouthshire haven't had a commercial service that deals with our quantities of recycling. You just couldn't put it in bags, it just wouldn't cope. So I don't know, nobody's got an excuse, They got a business, they're making money out of it, so they should pay. So the one place where I've got some hesitation is touched on in this report, but only very, very briefly, is where we have this heavy builders type waste. And that is a bit more of an issue, and Rachel raised this, and I was a bit cautious because that is the sort of stuff that may very well get fly tipped. So before we go down that route, we really are going to have to think this through very, very carefully, because I'm quite concerned about that. And the county wouldn't be very pretty after it.
It's something that I've wondered why, so if councils could provide, well, there must be a proper name for it, not a mincer, but the demolition that went on in Newport and the way the different grades of aggregate, when it was brought down, coarse, whatever, finer, there's a potential for that, and you wonder if somebody might pick that business up and develop a business because there's a use for that product.
Yeah, well, there is, Val, but the bald truth is that if they take it into those places, they pay to tip it out. and then the people crush it, and then they charge somebody to have it as hardcore for whatever they want it for.
Councillor Dovey?
It's following up on a point Councillor White made. I think in some respects we get a slightly distorted view of our success in terms of keeping the county tidy because of the work of volunteer groups. We have in Chepstow, and I'm sure they operate elsewhere, this group called Tidy Towns, and they are out constantly in different areas. And these different areas are repeatedly the scenes of dumping waste all the time. We don't seem to have a grip on how we can try and stop that happening. We've even got the police now organising waste picking up in Chepstow. I wish they were doing something else other than picking up waste. I don't think it falls within their remit, but it is an indication of this policy that they have of being good neighbours. So I do think we shouldn't really be too sanguine about how nice the county looks, because it isn't really down to all of us. There is a lot of people out there doing things repeatedly all the time, voluntarily, to keep the towns tidy, and that should be acknowledged.
Councillor Easton, thanks for that. Councillor Tony Easton.
It's coming back to the matter in hand, which is, and I go to the policy and guidance, which is on page 41 or 12, whichever you're looking at in the report. I don't know what you charge small businesses at the moment, whether it is a nominal charge or what, but you intend, your proposals are for recycled service bags, £1.20 a set per week, I would assume. Residual bags, £2.40 a week, I would assume, per week, plus the cost of the bags that they got to use. That's well, to me, it's over £200 a year for a small business. What do these small businesses pay at the moment? And are we going to get these small businesses on board at those sort of charges? Are they extortionate? How do they compare what you charge a business at the moment?
Can you just go through that, Roger? Because I didn't calculate it to £200, but could we just... A small business will have to pay a charge of how much per annum?
£25 administration fee. If you want your residual bags taken away, cost per collection is £2.40. I take it 50 times a year. Recycling service bags, £1.20 a set, that's 2 of them. That's another 50 quid a year. To buy those bags is another 30 quid. I make it £200 or a little bit more per business per year for the system. Have I got it wrong? Correct me if I have.
Just to clarify, and if I get it wrong, I'm sure Carl and Amy will put me right. The £25 is for the waste transfer node. Any business which moves waste or recyclable materials has to have a waste transfer node. That's their responsibility. They used to be done for free. We now charge in line with other companies. That's what we do. The second bit is it's not a charge per week, it's a charge per bag. So if you went into the one-stop shop to buy your 10 trade waste bags, they'd cost you £2.40 each, 24 quid for a roll of 10 or whatever they sell them in. The recycling bags are half of that price. They're £1.20 each. But you have to buy a roll. How many's on a roll? 26? 26 on a roll. So it's going to cost you £31.20 to buy a roll of those. And if you only, it's how often you use them, isn't it? And how many you use. It's which manages it.
I'm assuming a small business might be using them all every week. On the top level, the £200 more. It could be less, as you say, if we don't use them every week. But
Yeah.
we're talking those sort of ballpark figure.
Yeah, we are taught, yes, you're right, if they use them every week, that's the sort of charge. The difficulty at the moment is lots of businesses are doing the right thing, so they're purchasing the bags for residual. It's already happening, lots of businesses are buying them. We've got over 400 customers on registered, so that is happening. Lots of them don't know that we provide a recycling service, so their change going forward and through giving out the information and working with the businesses, they could reduce their costs. So they're currently paying £2.40 a week, they could be paying £1.20 instead. So it will reduce the cost for some businesses. Some of the other businesses will pick up some costs, but on the chairman's point earlier, the 1100 litre bin, what we would like to think is people will move from 1100 litre bin at £22 down to a 660 and have 2 recycling bags. That will save them money. This is not just about making money, but it is about providing a legislative duty that we all have to meet. And as the councillor said, cabinet member said, it is the duty of the business to pay for this waste. It is their waste. They are a business. They need to pay for it. So,
Okay.
If I was a small business in Town X with a little bit of food waste, a little bit of green waste, some paper waste and all, I would take it home, put it at my own door for nothing.
That was, I made that comment. There's nothing stopping them. Yeah. Okay. Well, it may be that's not the businesses that we're aiming this at to start with, but it's one of the things which will happen. I think everybody would look at a way of trying to save money. So yes, there's an example. Yeah. Right. Can we move forward? I think we give that a good airing. On page 1 of the report, recommendations on proposed ways forward. Can we just go through them on them recommendations? The first one is to approve the policy and charges scheme for trade waste dry recycling. Are we all happy with that? Are we all happy that we charge? Yep. Okay. I've seen no movement off some people. Are we happy with that? Yes, I got 3 in the front. Are you happy with that? You move, Dave? Okay. Okay.
You know what, Chairman, we forget that if businesses don't cover their costs, the other taxpayers pick up the bill instead.
And if businesses don't make any money, they don't not there, then they go, don't they? So business is business, yeah. That's the way it goes, and some will like it and some won't bother. That's the way it is, isn't it? B, to approve the changes to the charging mechanism for trade waste refuse. Yes? C, to approve investor safe funding of £20,000 for the recreation of electronic online chargeable scheme. There is Val, we have Sarah, we have an amendment to that, don't we? That the scheme has to be best value for the authority, i.e. if SRS isn't the best or the cheapest, we go elsewhere. Is that correct? Is that one of our recommendations?
That it is a proven system.
Yes. And value for money.
Value for money, yes.
Yeah?
So don't go spending $50.
Are we happy with that?
Yeah, don't try and reinvent the wheel. If it's out there working already.
Okay, are we happy with that pro vote put in there? Yeah. Okay, to approve the request delegation F above for scheme implementation outlined above. Yeah? Yep. Okay. Okay, that's to start in September. Yep. Implementation, yep. Okay. Go up to the top. Yeah, delegation of the head of operations in consultation with the cabinet member to make amendments to the detail of the scheme policy with the principle that proposed pricing mechanism does not change. Yeah, and it starts in September, doesn't it? Yeah, okay. Right, thank you everyone. Thank you officers. Some of you staying for the exempt report, yes? Yeah.
Chair, we discussed in the pre-meeting that on the 11th of June you've got Whole Place coming to the committee. We have had a look at the Cabinet Forward Planner and the solar farm business case is on that planner. Economy and Development Select Committee were interested in that item. Even though it's going to full council, it's quite a major decision and it has financial implications for the authority. So I'm guessing I'd like a steer from members today as to whether you'd want to conduct some scrutiny on that ahead of it going to council. And my suggestion, if you do, would be to move the whole place to the next meeting and to factor it in there so that you've got a chance before it goes to full council. But as I said, it is going to full council. There will be opportunity for full debate at full council. It's whether members would like to get a better understanding of the financial implications and do some work on it ahead of that. So if you did want to do that, we could defer whole place to the September meeting. That's a decision for members.
Okay, members, so do you want to have the document come before us and move the whole place? Sarah, as Economic Development, have you looked at this, or are you recommending that we jointly, or you want us to jointly?
Jointly, I think. I can't remember now what we agreed, but I know we agreed that it was important for us to look at this issue.
Okay.
So it jointly, I think, would be the best way forward.
And would you be happy, your committee, to put it in our meeting on the 11th of June then, would you?
Yeah, I think so.
Than your meeting, let's say, and
Luckily
invite
there's-
members from Economic Development to
Yeah.
come to our meeting, yes?
Luckily, there's quite a lot of crossover between the two committees anyway, so yeah,
Okay.
I think that'll be fine.
Members, are you okay with that one then? Move the whole place and bring that solar panel project to our meeting, just have a look at. It's going to be a full council decision anyway, so we will be able to have a look at that in full council also, but I think a scrutiny, I think it's something we need to have a look at quickly, and yeah, there's a lot of finance involved in that. We need to ask the questions, and then we are prepared then when it comes to full council also. Yeah, are you happy? Yeah, okay, right, we're happy with that one. The other one is, I received an email off Ian Batewell about the new housing, affordable housing criteria and policy driven by Westminster and Welsh Government, yeah?
I've suggested, Chair, that perhaps we have a special meeting in the summer with jointly with Adult Select to look at several issues relating to housing. One would be homelessness and our bedroom tax. The other one is is talking to Monmouthshire Housing Association, having a dialogue with them over certain aspects, such as how they link with some of the work that we do on community development, welfare reform. And that would be a special meeting proposed in sort of June, early July, and that would give you a little bit of an understanding before you have your meeting on the 16th of July, where we have two reports on affordable housing. One would be a progress update on your previous report that you wrote as a committee, and the other report is pre-decision scrutiny of some supplementary planning guidance relating to affordable housing. So what we're proposing is a special meeting with Adult Select to jointly scrutinise some aspects of housing as mentioned, and that would be in June.
Okay, members, are you happy for that to progress to have a joint meeting with Adult Select? Yep.
And the final issue to seek clarification on, we did refer to it briefly when we talked about the crime and disorder scrutiny, and that is that the report that we've tabled on today's agenda for information to consider inviting the fire authority to a future meeting of Select. That report, we've been informed, is very detailed and goes into a lot of detail on operational activities of the fire authority, whereas our role really is to consider how they work with the council towards our sort of strategic agreements, partnership agreements. And I've spoken to some officers this morning, and they have informed that the Safer Monmouthshire plan will be the right report for you to base your scrutiny on, and that plan is to be agreed on the 3rd of June. So I think we should factor perhaps scrutiny of that in September, and we can possibly invite the fire authority to that meeting.
Okay, that sounds a good idea, yeah. Tony?
When we discussed, we want to pull together all this situation with various views on the toilets across Monmouthshire, where will they be, looks to me, if it all goes to plan, that the authority won't have many toilets to look after at the end of this financial year. We need dates, ifs and buts.
We said that, yeah. we said that, Tony. I think what we said is the officers, we hadn't said to them to come back to us at a specific time, but what we would say is if they come back to us, let's say early autumn, the end of summer, where we have a better update of what's happening in Abergavenny, because they said they're working in Abergavenny now in moving things forward as reference to the toilets which were supposed to be closed, the project with the town council, all them little things in Abergavenny haven't been resolved yet. And I'm sure the officer, was it Rob O'Dwyer, or Rob O'Dwyer said, Rob
Nancaro and Rob O'Dwyer came
right.
to last week.
They are in discussions now what's going to happen in Abergavenny, because I think that was the main principle. We asked a question about the Market Hall, who was paying for the toilets in the old Market Hall, because there was significant costs originally with them. Where's all that gone? So there are issues in Abergavenny and the surrounding areas about public conveniences, and the costs are astronomical on public service toilets. And when you take, goes back to the last report on waste, on businesses being charged, there are all sorts of directions for businesses here. Was it the £500 for businesses to open up for toilets and things like that? Them things are still in place. So, I mean, there are lots of things within businesses, within our towns, etc., where they can actually have a gain. And I know it's difficult in business at the moment, but there are things within the toilets which can include businesses of generating some kind of revenue also. But Tony, there was the other aspect. Go on, Tony, yeah.
The aspect I'm looking at is we got maybe 4 or 5 officers looking at different aspects of different toilets across Monmouthshire.
Yeah.
We've got Benwyn Stanley looking at the Raglan toilets, somebody looking at the toilets just down the road in Woodside. We've got the Caldecott toilets, we've got the Chepstow toilets. We need to have 1 or 2 officers responsible for this so we can get a concise report. At the moment, you say Rob Nancaro and Rob O'Dwyer are holding in on this. Perhaps they could be given the remit to bring all these things together, take them off Ben Winstanley and take them off other officers who are looking at different toilets.
Is Ben Winstanley on asset management? He's different. Clear it up. Who's leading on toilets?
Can I just explain to members? In that instance, Ben Winstanley would be involved because it's a valuation of a toilet. It's a valuation of a building which you're interested in, not necessarily being a public loo. And in the other cases, Woodside interest is through Tim Bradfield, because actually the loo is linked onto the edge of the changing room. So it's managed as an open space issue. But all that information gets drawn together to you when it comes to you as a final report. Now, I happened to write the last report which you looked at, but Rob Nancaro and Rob O'Dwyer will collate this information to bring it back to you as a full report. But the issue now, just taking the Raglan issue, isn't actually in relation to whether you're providing a public loo, it's around the valuation of a building. And that's hence you're involving different people. Not unusual when reports come together for us to involve various officers from various departments to bring together the information for your report. But you are quite right, they will be collated through certain officers who need to take the lead.
Are you happy with that? Yeah. So we've just done a calculation there. We could end up having probably a meeting every month now. No meetings in August to try and fit this work programme in. Is everybody happy with that? What we'll do, we'll mail out with a breakdown of when the meetings are, what we're scheduled for each month, and then we know where we are. If you're not happy with that, please let us know and we'll try and change things around. But the programme you've got before you now is what we're agreeing on most of them. There's public protection there as well, which we did say, reference to comments made about Torvine and the agreement we have there. Just a second.
You agreed that you'd like to have public protection performance report back every 6 months, and when we brought it last time, we had quite a wide discussion about rats, pest control, all different aspects. So we thought maybe we could sort of, each time we bring you a 6-month performance update, we could have a focused area. And I think, given that you've already suggested today you've got some concerns around sort of trading standards, the officer thought that trading standards and licensing could be the first sort of themed report to bring you, and each time we could cover off a different area, because I sat through some of his annual reports yesterday, and it's very, very broad. It's very varied, and to try and get an understanding of all the different aspects of public protection is quite difficult to do in one meeting. So we thought maybe theming it, and the next one would be on licensing and trading standards. So that would come to a special meeting late June. As you can see in the planner, as the chair suggested, we're going to have probably a meeting every month now until September to try and fit everything in. And as you'll be aware, flood risk management strategy has been on the work programme for some time. I've been liaising with officers on that, and they felt the most appropriate time to bring that to you would be around late June. So these things are not just shifted month to month, they're put in at specific times after talking to officers about when it's appropriate and when there is something to actually report.
Okay, what we'll do is we'll draw up a schedule for members and we'll email it out. Have a look at it. Any comments then, please come back to us. Okay, Kevin?
Can I just make a plea, Chair, with the housing meeting for early July? I've expressed a real special interest in this and I've pushed for this to happen. I cannot do the first week of July. It says early July. Can you please try and avoid it if you can? Because I'm desperate to get to that meeting. Thank you.
Okay, we'll send an email out with a schedule, and then what we'll do is we'll put each meeting, and we do have budget monitoring as well to fit in all this, quarterly budget monitoring, capital and revenue as well. So, I mean, it's a busy schedule, and if we can get through it up to early autumn, that'd be great. If we don't, we're going to have to decide then on what we do put back. But there are some major issues within scrutiny which we must look at. I think the solar farm, which we've just touched on, which is in here, which Economic Development say we'll have a joint meeting. It may be we can put a couple of these items in that meeting also. So we'll have a look and we'll have a play with it and we'll email you out so we can try and just work it down. As I say, we're pushing for nice time this morning. But that's not to say what I want is the quality, not the quantity. I want to make sure we have the quality from what we're doing there. So if it means we have to have longer meetings, but it means we have to do it. So is everybody happy with that then? David, last one, and then we'll move on to the exempt item. Thank you. Okay. I think when we speak with Dave Jones from Environment, we can take this point up with him, and individually then you can put your concerns then after the meeting or whatever to Dave and see if we can look into that. It was a major concern, David, but to say, let's have the meeting, let's see where we are, they'll know what we're doing and the problems that we're encountering around the authority, and we'll go from there, Dave, okay? But make sure you do mention that. Okay, we've done the planner and the council business. Can we go into agenda item number 7 there, please, which is the exempt certificate? First of all, pardon? I'm going to submit. We have to means test that we believe the document is exempt from the public. Can I have any members' comments as reference to this document that we received as reference to the waste of food waste agreement that we're looking at? Initial views from myself were that was it in the public's interest, and that's the test. By the procurement process, my personal view is I didn't think there was a lot in there which the public should be exempt from. After speaking to Rob Tranter about this, he did say we actually have to scrutinise whether it's not in the public's interest to take this forward. It's our job to do that. So that's where we'll start with this one. So looking at the report there, does any member feel that this part of the report can be in the public's interest, or the whole report by the procurement side of it should be in the public's interest? Tony?
Yeah, I've speed read the report. I don't see any thing that I would consider to be not in the public interest. Although the monitoring officer or acting monitoring officer might think so himself, it would be nice if the monitoring officer was able to come and explain what he considers to be of a confidential nature. Other than the views that he might have, unless we got some ideas of what they are, maybe I must accept what he says, but I don't see anything wrong in the report.
It's the test. We have to test it, and we have to prove that it's not in the public's interest.
But do we
And if
test
we're
the
happy with
monitor?
that-
Do we test the monitor officer's view, or do we just test?
Okay. No, I checked with the monitoring officer about the document. I was going to have a word with him, because when I had a look at it, I thought, well, that yes, procurement has to be, it's not in the public's interest. Procurement is private and confidential. But when you read through the document, I was to say we're entering into an agreement with other authorities on food waste, etc., aerobic digestion. Yes, so what? I mean, we're entering into lots of things with other authorities. It's whether we're happy to take certain aspects of the document or we're not. We take the whole document in closed session, and it's not in the public's interest. As you know, we're on camera now. We're having the discussion. If you look at the diary, it's not on. It is on the agenda, but there's nothing to say what it's about on the agenda on the council diary there, which is public domain. So, I mean. We're talking about entering into an agreement with other authorities on food waste, which is no problem with that. It's whether the rest of the document you feel as members that it's not in the public's interest to discuss the finer detail there of the document. Val?
Same feeling as Tony, probably, that I looked at it and thought, well, is it really necessary? The legal advice is that it is necessary, therefore we go with that advice and get on with the discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I take the point that there are certain aspects in there.
Can I ask a question? Is it where this isn't being broadcast?
Yes, it is.
We're still live, we are.
Still public.
Yeah. This is a test we have to do, right?
Yeah, so,
It's limited to what you can say.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but Roger, we'll sort that out, Brian.
Yeah. There are aspects within the report which would be sensitive to a procurement exercise in the commercial environment, hence the request to take it out. But taking on board members' views about certain aspects being in and certain aspects being out, we would bring forward a future report on the matter and would split it in such a way so as you could take some in and some out, I think is probably the best way to do it, rather than necessarily taking the whole report out. It's down to the nature in which it's written, quite frankly, and the fact that it's being considered as a common report by all of the authorities which are looking at this. There is, however, an update in relation to that, which we need to offer to you, which is very material to this report and what may take where we may go with this. So I know I'm going to struggle a little bit because of protocol, really, in relation to whether or not we do go into committee to discuss that, or whether we give it as a statement and you defer the report.
Could I ask then, the information that we may be wanting to discuss, which is not in the report, correct?
Yes.
Would we class that as confidential information? Is it privy information, or is it in the public domain?
Unfortunately, it is, yes.
Okay. Members, I think now, listening to what I've just said, we have the report before us, and Roger's quite clear there that some of the report is public domain and some of it is confidential, and perhaps next time we will have two reports, which is great. I believe we should go into committee now if there's information which is not in this report which needs to be reported to us. Can we have a proposal in a second? Councillor Easton?
Well, I propose that we, on the basis that the Chief Executive and Monitor Officer have come up with a view, we should get this in committee and discuss it in committee.
Okay. Right. And I believe we have carried out the test now for public domain, that we've scrutinised the document, and we believe now we'll go into private session. Okay? 2 seconds.